Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Education Staff Supports Weekly Check-In. We're going to pause for a few moments here as several people are logging in and joining the webinar. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have a really exciting webinar for you planned today, and we're so glad to be here with you. We're also looking forward to hearing from you and hearing your questions. Before we get going, just want to share a few helpful tips to make this webinar a great experience for everyone. Please be sure to keep your computer or phone muted to minimize any background noise. We can ensure that the speakers can be heard. We are recording this webinar and we will post it in Basecamp in the webinar docs and files section after the webinar. We encourage you to please use the question box to type in any questions, and we will respond to your questions throughout the webinar as we are able. And just want to remind everyone that all COVID-19 related questions need to be sent to the dcyf.covid-19@dcyf.wa.gov inbox, and responses are posted on the DCYF COVID-19 webpage. We'll take a moment to do introductions. My name is Kelly DeBoer, and I'm an Innovation and Capacity Specialist at ECAP. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm coming to you today from Port Angeles. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that I am on the traditional lands of the Clallam people who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. This includes the Lower Elwha Clallam, the Jamestown Sklallam, and the Port Gamble Sklallam tribes.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Beeson. I'm the Inclusion Specialist. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am located in Marysville, Washington, which is home to the Tulalip tribe. The 22,000 acres of the Tulalip Reservation is located north of Everett and the Snohomish River and west of Marysville. It was created to provide a permanent home for the Snohomish, Snoqualmie, Skagit, Seattle, Samish, Stillaguamish tribes, and the allied bands living in the region.
And hi, my name is Aliza Yair, and I am the Outdoor Preschool Pilot Program Specialist, and I will be presenting to you today. My pronouns are she, her, and I am on Puyallup land in Tacoma.
And with that, Aliza, I'm going to pass the presentation over to you so that you can share your screen with us.
All right. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm so grateful that you all are attending today, and I hope that the information I'm about to share with you will be enriching for yourselves and also for the families and children that you work with. I greatly appreciate what you all are doing as well. And with that, I would like to also think about who is here. And I couldn't help myself with the pun. And also, I want to share that this photo I've included is the great horned owl, the Granbujo de Cuernos. And the breeding habitat for this owl is all around Washington. So every one of us, unless you live at the top of the mountains, might be able to find this owl one day. Now, I'm hoping that you all will share a little bit with me about your role and where you are located. And hopefully this works because I've never done this before.
So I just launched the poll, Eliza.
Oh, great. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, while you are filling out that poll, I will share with you that I also have been an early childhood teacher and also an education director. Although when I taught, it was in New Zealand because I lived there for a while in my adulthood. So I have that background as well as now being involved in policy and program development.
I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share it out. So it looks like about 79% of participants today are classroom teachers or assistant teachers. 5% are center directors or site managers. About 11% are coaches, and 5% are other content area managers. So thank you, everyone. Do you want me to run the next one, Eliza?
Yes, please. Thank you. And while you all are filling out this next poll about where you are located, what type of community you're in, and what type of community you serve, I am bringing this up now because I think it is important for us to remember that when we are supporting children, families, and ourselves to have nature-centered experiences, that this can be done in enriching and healing ways in any type of environment, whether it's an urban environment, suburban, or rural. You know, especially as we're working with younger children who are able to and have a fascination with small things and individual things. You know, we can find nature anywhere, and we can also bring it inside with us if that is what we need to do in order to encourage these types of interactions. So I'm interested to know what type of access people have to natural spaces as well as we get started.
It looks like people are still voting, so we'll give it about 10 more seconds and then we'll close this poll.
Yeah. Also, I'm definitely one of those people who needs to keep drinking to keep my throat clear while I'm presenting. So thank you for your grace in allowing me to have a cup of tea off screen.
I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share it. So it looks like about 25% of participants are in urban areas, 39% in suburban, and 37% in rural. So a great mix.
Great, that's really good to know. All right, thank you. So I just want to check, is it back onto my screen where people can see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Yeah, and so also as we get started, I want to invite you all to include in the chat something in nature or natural in the environment that you are grateful for. Having a sense of gratitude for something is a great way to start a meeting. And so please feel free to include that in the chat window. I'd love to know. All right, so we actually already talked about acknowledging native land, so I'm going to skip this slide. And I'll tell you what we're going to do today. So on this agenda, which I hope will inspire a cycle of nature exploration, we will have a little guided nature exploration And then I'll tell you a bit about some of the benefits of nature from some research, as well as share with you some nature-centered resources, places you can go to find more information after this webinar. And I'll also go over some of the initial practical considerations about playing outside in all weather, really, but also just practical considerations about nature-centered learning. And then we'll have an opportunity for Q&A, and then hopefully everyone will be inspired to spend some more time with nature. Okay. So on the screen, I have shared with you some lupins from New Zealand, which is where I used to live. However, I do invite you to also look out a window, or if you happen to be outside, look around you and find one thing that catches your eye, and take a deep breath. And I want you to notice, does it have a color? Does it have a shape? If it's in the room with you, or if you are near to it, does it have a smell? Does it have a texture? Can you touch it? And if you keep taking a deep breath and you take in what you are noticing and release out any tension, keeping your awareness on this beautiful piece of earth, whatever it may be, and think about where it came from. What history does it have? How did it get to where it is? And take another deep breath and fill yourself with gratitude for the piece of nature that you've just connected with. And take another deep breath and fill yourself with gratitude that you've turned up today in order to have that connection. And take a deep breath and feel connected with gratitude that you all just shared that experience with one another. Even though you're all separated by distance, we are still socially connected in our appreciation of nature together in this moment. Wonderful. Well, I hope that even those 15 seconds of focusing on nature were beneficial to you. And I'm going to share with you some more information about things that nature can improve. Now, these resources that are on the screen are put out by an organization called the Children and Nature Network. And it is primarily a research clearinghouse that collects research on the impact of nature on health and education, and basically all aspects of children's development, including impacts on families. And so just to point out a couple of some of my favorite pieces of information about nature and how it impacts us. Nature can improve academic outcomes through enhanced attention. And I want to explain this a little bit more, that especially with young children, so these are not specific to early childhood education, but especially with young children between the ages of 3 and 5, we know that through like neuroscience research that is an age range where a lot of executive functioning skills and neurological pathways are being created. And being out in nature or having nature around, and actually just the color green, having the color green around is a way to soothe young children's agitation and encourage their ability to focus. So that has an impact on focus and attention and academic outcomes, as well as reducing ADHD symptoms. So if you have children with hyperactivity, sometimes being out with nature, interacting with nature are some of the best places for addressing those symptoms. Additionally, children that spend more time outside have reduced BMI, so body mass index, it means lower obesity. So reduced risk of obesity due to increased physical activity. And then also something that I find that was news to me, was particularly around healthy babies, and that nature exposure for mothers can promote better fetal growth. So if a pregnant woman is, taking a walk 1 time a week, that can have significant impacts on the healthy development of their child. And this is especially impactful for mothers of lower socioeconomic levels or with less access to education. And those are, those are things that it's not causal, but they are, oh gosh, the word is escaping me now. But they are related factors. And so especially as ECAP and Head Start providers and teachers, nature has the ability to take what we are already doing to improve outcomes for families and boost it even more. And so, really hoping that this research encourages you all to consider how you can integrate nature into what you already do in order to meet the goals for thriving that we have for the communities that we serve. So here is, a list of things that is more specific to early childhood education. Like I mentioned, nature play improves executive functioning and reduces ADHD symptoms. It also supports risk assessment and creativity and problem solving. So you can imagine, when you're out in nature in the woods, it's not a playground that has preset ways of climbing or materials that kind of look the same way every day. You go out there and every stick is different. It's a different size or length, and every tree stump is a little bit different too. And so those activities are really supportive for children's development, as well as in their physical activity, just baseline, but also improving their proprioception and balance. So nature play is actually something that is used very successfully by occupational therapists or people who are addressing physical development delays in children. And also being outside improves eyesight and hearing development. You're looking farther away, you're hearing things from farther away and from all around. And so there's so many reasons why we should support children to be outside in natural environments if possible. But even though everybody has some access to nature, not everybody has access to green spaces, and that is a very unfortunate equity issue. And it is something that, although not within our power to change, is something to really be aware of, because it can encourage us to incorporate nature and seek out those places in certain communities, even more so than perhaps we did before. And it also arms us with, the ability to advocate for our communities in city planning or opportunities like that if they come up. And so what I'm encouraging is that people really embrace place-based learning. You can be in nature, so a nature-based activity, or you can be learning with nature, and that's a nature-centered experience that can occur in your playground, inside. And both of these are great approaches, and it is not an either or. It is definitely a both and, if you can get it. So just to explain a little more about the difference. So a nature-based approach to early childhood education really involves having a broad surrounding and natural environment. And within this environment, children are really able to explore and have interest-led educational activities. It does have a slower pace. You have less resources with you, and so you're really relying on children's exploration of nature as the third teacher. And one really great activity that helps with the grounding and the mindfulness is called sit spots. And that's when children are able to find a space that they can settle into and observe over time. So you really get to know a particular tree or plant or area around you. But of course, especially now with COVID, I think the idea is that we stay local and find these spaces, no matter how big or small they are. With that being said, and these are things that you can encourage families to do as well. And then on the other side of it, we have opportunities to learn with nature. And this is when you can really maximize having gardens or natural materials, food. I know even if you don't have a garden, right, food is a natural material. And so even activities that focus on food preparation or handling with children are a great opportunity for learning. And also local animals. So whether it's like looking at the birds that are around or finding worms or bugs, these are entryways into learning with nature that are easily accessible. And then also because many of you are probably doing some kind of distance learning or online learning with families now as well, really consider the appropriate use of technology if families have access to computers, or mailing guidance documents to families. Oops, press the wrong button, sorry. To think about, I know we normally don't encourage the use of tech with young children, but you can have natural images and resources through a screen, which is maybe not the most ideal, but like I showed before, having a screen with a piece of nature to consider is not such a bad thing. So you are going to get this PowerPoint, so you will be able to follow these links. But I do want to point you off, first off, to a website that is Head Start based. This is the Head Start nature-based learning and development website, where there are guidance documents, example videos, a lot of things about how to incorporate nature into the activities and learning and development focuses that you already have as Head Start teachers. And I think that this is applicable in any early childhood setting too. So that is a great place to find some resources if you don't already know about it. Another great place to find resources is through an organization called the Natural Start Alliance. So the Natural Start Alliance is an early childhood focused branch of a larger organization called the North American Association of Environmental Education, or NAAEE, NAAEE. You know how much we love acronyms in this world. So Natural Start Alliance is another great place. They have blogs, they have videos, they have a whole journal called the International Journal for Early Childhood Environmental Education, which has all sorts of research if you are interested in that sort of thing. But the two sites that I linked here are particularly, the first one is New World Nature-Based Education, and that's the New World being online. So that has a number of resources that community has put together to help people accessing nature-based experiences, even through supporting families online, as well as a link to a document called A Parent's Guide to Nature Play. And this document has so many ideas, and it's really quite accessible. But I do want to give one caveat about it, and that is that I think the introduction page is quite culturally specific. And so you might wish, when you're sharing this with families, to create your own introduction, something that is a bit more culturally relevant to the community that you're serving. But the ideas are still great, and the information is still really good in there. But everything is pick and choose what's right for you in your context, and what you can support with your families is absolutely the way to go. These are just ideas for you. Another pretty great early childhood specific resource is called Cultivating Wonder and Joy. And this is almost 100 pages long, but it is a sustainability and early childhood education curriculum. It is not Washington specific. It was created at a farm school in Vermont, but it does have some really lovely ideas about how to talk about nature with children. And there are activities starting about halfway through that you could quite easily incorporate into what you do with children as well as you search through it. The next page of resources, and this is for all ages and research, and the reason why I'm giving you all ages is because we just need to accept that families have kids of all ages at home. And so anything that we can support families to use that they can use with all of their children at once is probably going to be pretty helpful. So I wanted to make sure that you as early childhood focused educators are aware of some of the things that I've come across that I really like. And one is, or the first one, is actually a list of links to other sites of free nature-focused learning experiences from all sorts of nature-related organizations, like the Forest Service or National Geographic or the Audubon Society. So that link is there. It was particularly developed for homeschools, but I mean, that's kind of where we're at now. And specifically, they also have an activity finder. So if you have children that are really into dinosaurs or birds or any particular thing, you can search for, by topic or keyword through that website. So that's a really good one. Although it's not the OSPI website and clearinghouse of environmental education resources, that is something that families and teachers of school-age children should have through OSPI, which I've not included here. The University of Washington also has a nature and health group. It's a number of researchers and people who focus on the benefits or research the benefits or challenges of nature for families. But when the Stay Home, Stay Healthy order began, they brought together a collection of research reads, but it also includes, and I kind of like this one, links to live webcams at zoos. Where you can connect with some of the animals at their zoos, or you can take a virtual tour of national parks. There's also a number of nature apps. So, if you want to encourage families to go outside for a walk, and they can use these nature apps to see what is that plant, what is that animal. You know, you don't have to already know everything about nature to go outdoors. You just have to explore. And this list does have a lot of resources to support families to do that. And again, I mentioned the Children and Nature Network, and so those are the links to some of their resources. Findingnature.org is specifically the resources that the wider national community, I guess, is pulling together to support families during quarantine times. And I know that I just shared with you a whole lot of information. And so this slide is really to encourage you to slow it down, choose one thing, and work with the people that you work with together to see if that is right for you. You know, coming at it from a trauma-informed approach. Many of us are also going through the trauma right now of this pandemic. And so, you know, have grace with yourself. Remember that incorporating nature into your lives and the lives of the children and families that you work with is meant to be restorative, not stressful. And so, you know, work together, one thing at a time, and enjoy the pace that interacting with nature can give you. And I'm going to go through some nuts and bolts, tips and tricks, just thinking about going outside into natural spaces. There is, you know, a lot to this with more specificity, but I am going to just go through these just, you know, off the top of my head kind of. So first things first, dress for the weather and the activity. If it's going to be a blustery spring day with, you know, rain in the afternoon and maybe it'll get chilly, even if it's nice in the morning, you know, bring your raincoat. It seems kind of silly, but having a backpack full of a first aid kit, a water bottle, change of clothes, extra clothes, and food is very much going to help yourselves and families get out into natural environments appropriately and safely and comfortably. Also, as you consider taking children outside, if you have a class and you have access to natural areas, think about what that natural area affords you. So this is about affordance theory. How open-ended are the outdoor resources or natural spaces that you're thinking of going to? Is it a plain field of grass, or is it the side of a field of grass with bushes and maybe a creek and a tree stump or a small tree to hang off of? Those are the types of spaces that you're really wanting to take children to, and also the ones that are the most engaging, which actually keeps groups of children safer when you're outside because they are less likely to look for something more engaging elsewhere. And, you know, if you have a large group, bring it with you. You all have your systems of the things that you need to provide a quality childcare and education experience. So don't be afraid to lug it along. Carry it with you, pop it somewhere where there's good affordance, and set up shop. So you might be thinking to bring cones or other materials to bring with you. These are photos from outdoor preschools that are involved in the pilot project. So these are programs that have little to no access to indoor facility. And you can see that children are all dressed up in their rain gear, and the teacher has a giant cart with boxes full of stuff that they need. So, you know, don't be afraid to carry it along. And also just ask yourselves, or have families ask themselves, like, why not outside? It's spring, it's almost summer, it's a nice day. It is better to be outside in nature if you can. And so take the time to go outside to read a story or have your snack, or bring a radio and have a dance party. Story time, snacks, and dance parties. Oh my. Dance parties are my favorite. But also really lean into the child-led inquiry and exploration. Nature really does have a lot to offer, but it might be less obvious if it is a new place. So children really do need the opportunity to explore. And you can use all of your skills in open-ended questioning and, you know, encouraging exploration by bringing, in these two pictures, just bringing a little magnifying glass. Magnifying glass is a great signal that you are wanting to look at something further. And it also allows you to see closer. But these are just examples of how much opportunity there is for STEM, arts, and storytelling. You know, there's a bird, imagine that bird, where does it live? What is its family like? How can we build a bird's nest with sticks? How can we make a mandala with all of the different flowers and leaves that we found? Or hypothesizing, you know, what would happen if we threw these rocks into the puddle? Like, how far can it splash? You know, there is natural science is a whole area of science, and so I encourage you that you can meet those learning and development goals for children in nature very easily. And you actually don't have to bring much with you. You just have to lean into the play and inquiry and exploration that is there, and that children will do. So following their lead. But also encouraging and facilitating children's relationships with nature and their connection with nature really is a goal in and of itself for children's development of an ecological identity. And what I mean by that is they have a sense of their place in their ecology. You know, what is their relationship with the water that is moving through their town, or what is their relationship with the food that is growing? These are ways that children can really learn the power of emotionally connecting with other life. You know, if you've ever seen pictures of kids with little puppies or kittens, you're like, oh yeah, because it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing to watch, right? I think that that is something else about bringing children out into nature, is that it does calm everyone down. There is a slower pace. And you as an adult, or a parent as an adult, if you remember to, can also really lean into the joy of watching small children play. And I think especially now that is also really powerful for us, for our healing as early childhood educators and people who really care about young children. So this is, yes, a text-heavy slide, and yes, I apologize for that if people are reading this on their phones. However, when you get it on the computer, you will be able to read it more closely. But the reason why I put it all here, and this is just an introduction, is because I really want to encourage systematically thinking about being prepared for health and safety needs, as well as the education that you can provide in a nature-based setting. If you are going to nature, remember, choose a location based on affordance. So you're thinking about the benefits. What benefits does nature provide? Where are you going to have your circle time? Does it have picnic tables? Or do you need to bring a picnic blanket? But also risk. So you have to think about what is the impact on the ratio of teachers to students that this space requires. Some spaces have really wide open lines of sight, and you can introduce children to the play area really easily. However, some other spaces, maybe it's really densely wooded, and so you might need to think about having more adults than usual. And I do just want to mention that for outdoor preschool, so programs that are outside all the time, they do have a required ratio of 1 to 6. This is especially because children do engage in risky play activities more often, and which is good for them developmentally, but that's just part of the curriculum usually in a nature-based program. But also, think about your feelings about risk. Everyone's comfort or knowledge about, how safe is it to climb that tree is different. Some people really know how to assess how safe a tree is to climb, and how to check branches if they're dead. How to look for how slippery something is. You always check the fall zone and make sure that large rocks and sharp sticks are not where children might fall. And you also place yourself next to a tree if a child is starting to climb up, but have shared expectations between staff, like children should not necessarily in this country be able to climb all the way up to the top of a tree, even though they do in some other countries. But in America, we have a different kind of system. Not everybody has access to healthcare or time off of work. And so we have to really protect our children. And so, making sure that staff share a comfort level. Maybe staff only want children, you can't see where I'm, but only want children to climb up to about hip height on an adult. And that is totally fine and legitimate. Again, going out into nature is about feeling good about being in nature. It's not about being stressed. It's not about adding risk. So think about also what other resources you want to bring. Can you bring a lot of open-ended resources, or not a lot, but less resources if you're carrying it, right? You want to have less weight. But how many uses does that have? Definitely bringing drawing utensils, paper, as well as boards or surfaces for children to draw on is a really, really great thing to do. Bringing books and blankets, having basically your learning centers outside, whether you're in nature or even just outside in your playground or outside in the backyard. Those are things to do that are great. And also, I mentioned this a little bit before, but especially if you're thinking about going to a park or a public space with no fences, having cones or ribbons to set the boundaries of a play space is really key. First of all, it is the visual reminder for children that that is the edge of acceptable play. Also, you can introduce children to the edge of play as you set them out. And it also says to the public, this is a place to be careful or maybe to avoid because we have a group of children here. So that is something that is really useful for having children in public spaces, especially now. And also consider when to go. So if you can, starting your day outside can be really joyful and also just really set a good tone for the day. And then you don't have to go through the process of settling into an indoor area and then getting transitioned again to go outside. You can make the transition more quickly or smoothly, perhaps at the start of the day. That's just an option. Obviously, consider when works best for you and your community. And of course, preparing children and families if you're going off-site. So this is making sure you have clothes for everyone, food for everyone. They know that it's happening. They know where to find you if they need to find you. And any of these considerations are ones that you can share with families as they consider taking their own kids to the parks. And of course, enjoy. So now I will open it up to any questions. And please pardon, I don't know where to find questions. Kelly, maybe you can help me with that.
Yes, Allison and I we can watch the question box here. I do want to share and let folks know, I neglected to mention at the beginning of the webinar, but there are 5 handouts in the webinar here. Some of the resources that Eliza talked about and shared are available in handout form here. And like she mentioned, we will be posting the copy of the PowerPoint in Basecamp, along with a link to the recording of the webinar. But so I'm not seeing questions coming in yet, but just want to keep it open. I know you can also raise your hand and we can unmute you if that's easier for you.
There were some really great comments about what people are grateful for in nature. So we had a lot about the rain and it watering our plants and our gardens. I am definitely on that boat. I'm very excited about that. Flowers and trees, being able to look at lavender plants, to smell. And then we definitely enjoyed seeing Kelly's dog in the background, which was wonderful. Wide open spaces and the mountains. So we're very lucky to live in such a place where we have all this wonderful nature around us.
Yeah, we definitely are. Maybe everybody has just been so soothed that they're just taking a nap in the sunshine.
We do have someone saying that they really appreciate the resources, that they're going to be very, very helpful. So that's really wonderful.
Great, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, no questions also means maybe I did my job very well, so I'm not taking it personally.
I must say, it's been wonderful to see the pictures of kids. It's been just lovely. That made me smile.
Yeah, for sure. I think we are very lucky that this change in our way of life has occurred at a time when the weather is a bit on our side, for sure as well. So hopefully people can.
Yeah, we do have a question for you. What types of grants are available if you are wanting to start a nature-based preschool?
Oh, wow. What types of grants are available? Well, the only ones that I know of, or one that I know of, is the No Child Left Inside grant. If you have a center and you want to, so if people don't know about that, please Google it. It's a Washington State grants program that is available for outdoor nature-based education. There is also, currently or in the past, an option for a capital improvements grant through DCYF. So if you have a center and you wanted to expand into an outdoor classroom, that is an available option. Also, a number of different outdoor organizations like REI or Grundens or individual outfitters, they also have potentially grant programs, but they also might subsidize or sponsor programs with small requests. So there's definitely some resources, you know, piecemeal, ways to piecemeal a program together. And yeah, those are the ones that I know about. Definitely the Natural Start Alliance, or there's also a Washington Association of Nature Preschool, or the Washington Nature Preschool Association. It's called WANPA. It's like the Washington division of the Natural Start Alliance, which is a national or North American association. And so those nature preschool educators have experience with finding funding sources. But a lot of programs also rely on fundraising. And with the outdoor preschool pilot as well, nature-based preschools, which were operating as license exempt programs, so half-day programs, unregulated, also not able to take families that needed subsidy assistance. They, you know, hopefully after the pilot are now a part of licensed options. So you could have an outdoor preschool program and be a part of Early Achievers, take kids with subsidies, be a part of ECAP. So these are all options that are available, some now, some in the future. But the outdoor preschool pilot only has 1 year left. And so right now is not the waiting game, but just the wrapping up of the pilot. And then it should be more widespread and established in about a year, a little over a year. Fingers crossed.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
There's a few more comments that have come in, Eliza. One says, I really liked that you addressed the importance of nature in such a way that it will be easy and clear to share with our families.
Oh, good.
Another person has shared, this has been one of the best webinars. Thank you so much. This is a great presentation. Thank you. It's a great reminder that nature is a wonderful way for children to grow and learn, and much needed. My grandson was playing in a mud puddle the other day and it made me smile. So.
Adults can also play in mud puddles, just saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Included inadvertently.
Yeah, what I really take from learning about the research on the positive impacts of nature on both children and adults is also just about how important nature-based experiences can be in helping us all have resilience during this pandemic, right? So everyone has stressors, everyone, especially people already with, you know, traumas and like traumatic situations. Nature is a place to help children grow and develop, but it is also a place to help adults find peace and healing. And in that way, really supports families and their well-being as a whole. And then, you know, the more we can create well families, the better we have a well society.
Like a couple of questions have come in now, Eliza. Is there a site that lists nature-centered programs in Washington?
Yes, kind of. There is the Outdoor Preschool Pilot website, which has a list of the programs that are participating in the pilot. But other than that, the Washington Nature Preschool Association, WANPA, is really the best resource for finding or reaching out to or connecting with people who already operate those programs. And I will say as well, you know, that especially now with how different things are, you know, a lot of those programs are closed for now. And so those adults have a lot of knowledge, a lot of area specific knowledge, and a lot of general, how to take kids outside knowledge. So if you are interested in creating professional connections, that is an opportunity that you can take advantage of. They have a Facebook group.
Could you also share, I know there's a question, are there ECAP programs that are part of the outdoor preschool pilot? And I know the answer is yes. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Elisa?
Absolutely, yeah, we do. We have 2 programs that are ECAP programs that are in the pilot. And actually they were kind of like star programs because they were the first ones to get all of the information in and to receive an outdoor preschool pilot or outdoor preschool license. The first 2 in the whole country to have a licensed outdoor preschool program are both ECAP providers, which is great. But yes, the Squaxin Island Tribal Child Development Center, they licensed an outdoor classroom program called Saplings and Cedars. And the way that they use it, which is, pretty great, is they have enough space for a group size of about 12. And they have the morning sessions. They have 12 children outside, and this is additional capacity to what is in their center too. So they added a capacity of 12 children outside, and most of those are ECAP seats. And then they switch with another group of 12 for the afternoon. So in total, every day, 24 children get to have at least 4 hours outside while also still receiving full day care. And so that is just a really great way of doing it. And those children also, really wonderfully, the teachers have been keeping track of like behavioral incidences. And when those kids are outside, there are none. I mean, none compared to when the same children are inside and they're having like, arguments and conflicts. And so that has been some really promising, like anecdotal research. It's not, real, it's not repeated in the other programs. Not everybody is collecting that kind of data. But so that's been really promising. And so that's happening in Shelton. And then there's another program on Orcas Island called the Kaleidoscope Forest School. And they have a lot of blended funding streams, but they have a program where children come and they might have like before school hours kind of time, like early time. And then they're outside from 8 to 3 at a separate location. They have a bus that they take their group of 12 children out to a location. They use an area at, I can't remember if it's Boys and Girls. Anyway, some kind of camp location. They use a little area in the woods that they've kind of made their own. And then they come back at 3 for kind of the after school portion. And there are some children that are enrolled every day of the week, but for the most part, actually, they rotate enrollment in that program so that all of the children at the center get 2-3 days outside a week. So it's not every day for each child, but it's very often. And so in that way, they're really ensuring that all children have the same access to that program.
And it looks like we've got one more question before we wrap up. Kelly's asking, what researcher has been an inspiration to you? I really enjoy the research work of Richard Louv, and his research has been an inspiration to me.
Yeah, Richard Louv wrote Last Child in the Woods and Vitamin N, if people want a good read. I have a couple of books I can show you. I have read so much research, so in terms of who's an inspiration to me, I mean, my initial inspiration for nature-based education with children actually comes from my teacher training when I was in New Zealand, which was actually very inclusive of it, or based on, in many ways, the Indigenous way of looking at how people connect with nature. So through Te Ao Māori, New Zealand is a bicultural community in the sense that there's the Indigenous Māori people, and then there are the Pākehā, or the visitors, or people who have moved there, not visitors, they live there now, but the non-Indigenous people. And so it's very multicultural, and the New Zealand early childhood curriculum and research as well, research approaches, are very inspirational to me. Also, though, I will point out a couple of other books from the American context. So there's a researcher, David Sobel, who teaches nature-based early childhood education and place-based education in New Hampshire. And he put together, along with a number of other practitioners, this book called Nature Preschools or Forest Kindergartens, The Handbook to Outdoor Learning. And this is a great resource as well. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that. There are definitely more researchers that I really like, and a lot of them from overseas as well. So if you ever want to look into Norway or Scotland or New Zealand, those are countries that I also recommend. And I'm inspired by Washington State, to be honest. I think Washington is pretty cool and doing some cool stuff. And there are many researchers, like I mentioned, University of Washington's Nature and Health Symposium is a group of researchers who, want to help clarify and advocate for the importance of nature in people's lives, whether through education, city planning, medicine. So I really am inspired by the people of Washington too.
Well, Aliza, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. This has been just wonderful to hear from you, and we're so grateful that you could be here today.
Yes.
And would just love to invite everyone, if you have, additional questions or topics you'd like to see in the future, please either email ecap@dcyf.wa.gov or feel free to connect with us on Basecamp. And we look forward to talking with you more throughout the week. So let's keep the conversation going on Basecamp, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.